The DJ's voice crackled through the VFW hall speakers like a bad radio signal. Let's get our guests of honor out here. Ed and Margaret Dalton, married 43 years. Patsy Cline started up. Crazy. Our wedding song. 80 people turned to watch. Co-workers from Kellerman Machine and Tool. Their wives. The whole damn retirement party waiting to see an old couple shuffle around the floor. I stood up, extended my hand to Margaret the way I'd been taught. The way men did things in 1982 when we got married. She looked at my hands like I'd asked her to jump off a bridge. I'd rather not, she said, loud enough for the tables around us to hear. Then she stood, smoothed that new navy dress I'd never seen before, and walked straight over to Derek Pullman, 34 years old, production supervisor. Drove a lifted truck with vanity plates. They danced. She laughed, touched his shoulder. I just stood there, hand still out, like a damn fool. 4 months she'd been dodging me in bed. 4 months of goodnight kisses that landed on turned cheeks. 4 months of separate rooms and excuses, headaches, hot flashes. Just need my own space right now, Ed. I told myself it was menopause. Told myself 66-year-old women go through things. Told myself patience was what 43 years of marriage required. Patience. That's what men like me did. We waited things out. But standing there in the VFW hall with my hand extended to nobody, I wasn't feeling patient anymore. Jerry from Quality Control looked away first, then Bill. Then the whole damn table found their beers. Real interesting. The music kept playing. Margaret kept laughing. Derek's hand was on her waist now, casual as anything. Like they'd done this 100 times before. Maybe they had. I dropped my hand. Walked past the buffet table, fried chicken and green bean casserole going cold under the heat lamps, and pushed through the door into the January night. The cold hit my face like a slap. My truck was parked under the one working streetlight in the lot. I got in, turned the key, nothing. The engine clicked twice and died. Battery, probably. Or maybe just the universe telling me to sit there and watch through the window while my wife of 43 years danced with a man young enough to be our son. I tried the key again. The engine turned over, slow, reluctant, then caught. The heater started blowing cold air that would take 10 minutes to warm up. Through the window, I could see them. Margaret's head tilted back, laughing at something Derek said. The disco ball casting little pieces of light across her face. 43 years. And I couldn't remember the last time she'd looked at me like that. Earlier that evening, I'd stood in our bathroom, trying to get my tie right. The mirror showed me what I already knew. 68 years old, jowls starting, gray hair that had been brown when Margaret and I got married. My hands shook a little when I was nervous. They were shaking then. You about ready? I called out. Margaret's voice came from the bedroom. Almost. As I heard her in there, moving around, opening drawers. The smell of her perfume, same one she'd worn for 40 years, drifted through the door. I'd bought her a bottle every Christmas since 1985. Ritual, tradition. The kind of thing you do when you've been married long enough that you stop thinking about it. When she came out, I barely recognized her. The dress was new, navy blue, fitted in a way her usual clothes weren't. Her hair was done different. Makeup more careful than church on Sunday. You look nice, I said. She checked herself in the hallway mirror. Didn't look at me. Thank you. New dress? Needed something for tonight. We taking separate cars? I asked. Or you want me to drive? Let's take separate cars, she said, still looking at the mirror, adjusting an earring. In case one of us wants to leave early. That should have told me something right there. But I just nodded, grabbed my keys, went out to warm up the truck. She left first. I followed her taillights through town, past the closed-up depot that used to be the train station, past the First Methodist Church where we'd gotten married, past Kellerman Machine and Tool, where I'd spent 42 years measuring things down to the thousandth of an inch precision. That's what I did. That's what I was good at. But I'd missed something here, something big. The retirement party had been nice, up until the dance. Plant manager gave a speech about my reliability. 42 years, never missed more than 3 days in a row. Trained half the machinists working there now. The kind of men you could count on. They brought out a cake, shook my hand, gave me a plaque that said, "In recognition of dedicated service." I smiled, said thank you. Told them it had been an honor. Margaret sat beside me the whole time, smiled when she was supposed to, but her eyes kept drifting. I caught her looking across the room twice. Both times, Derek Pullman was there, leaning against the bar, watching. He'd been working at Kellerman for 3 years. Took over the day shift when Bill Henderson retired. Young guy, confident, the kind who wore his Carhartt jacket like a costume. Drove that stupid truck. Went to the gym, posted pictures of his protein shakes on whatever social media thing people use now. I'd never had a problem with him. Nodded when we passed in the parking lot. That was about it. But watching Margaret's eyes drift toward him, watching the way he looked back, I started having a problem. When they called us up to dance, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Thought maybe 43 years counted for something. Thought she'd take my hand and we'd shuffle around the floor like old people do, and everyone would clap, and we'd go home and things would be fine. I was wrong. Now I sat in my truck in the VFW parking lot, heater finally blowing warm air, and watched my wife laugh with a man who was probably born the same year I bought my first house. My phone sat on the passenger seat, no calls, no texts. She hadn't even noticed I'd left. I put the truck in gear and drove home. The house was dark when I got there. I left the porch light on for her, old habit, and went inside, hung up my coat, loosened my tie, stared at the refrigerator for a minute before realizing I wasn't hungry. We'd been sleeping in separate rooms for 16 weeks. I counted them once. After the third week, then stopped counting because it made things worse. My room, our old guest room, smelled like the lavender air freshener Margaret had bought at Walmart. The bed was too small. The mattress was too soft. I lay there in the dark and listened. Her car pulled into the driveway at 1:30 in the morning. I heard the door open. Heard her come inside. Heard her walk past my room without stopping. Her bedroom door closed. Water ran in her bathroom. Then silence. 4 months she'd been dodging me in bed. Now I knew why. Question was, what else didn't I know? Monday morning, she made bacon and eggs like nothing had happened. I came into the kitchen at 6. She was already at the stove, spatula in hand, humming something I didn't recognize. The bacon sizzled. The coffee maker gurgled. Everything looked normal if you didn't count the fact that my wife had publicly chosen another man 2 nights ago. Coffee's fresh, she said. Didn't look at me. I poured a cup, sat down at the table. The newspaper was there, folded the way I liked it. My chipped mug, the one I'd been using for 20 years, was already out. She put a plate in front of me. 2 eggs, 4 strips of bacon, wheat toast. We'd been doing this dance for 43 years. Every morning, same routine. Except now it felt like watching a play where the actors had forgotten what the story was supposed to be about. You sleep okay? She asked. I looked at her, really looked, 66 years old. Still pretty, if you knew where to look. But her eyes were somewhere else. They'd been somewhere else for months. Fine, I said. You? Good. She wiped down the counter. I've got errands today. Need anything from town? No. She nodded, hung up the dish towel, grabbed her purse and keys from the counter, kissed my cheek, quick, perfunctory, the way you'd kiss a relative at Thanksgiving. Then she was gone. I sat there with my eggs getting cold, trying to remember when we'd stopped being real with each other. I had to go to Kellerman that morning. Still had some tools in my locker. Personal stuff I'd left behind. A couple of precision instruments, a jacket, some photos I'd taped up over the years. The shop floor was loud when I walked in, machines running, the smell of cutting oil and hot metal. 42 years I'd breathed that air. It had gotten into my lungs, my clothes, probably my DNA. I walked past the break room. Conversation stopped. I kept walking, past the quality control station where Jerry worked. He met my eyes, gave me a small nod. Ed, Jerry. That was it, just acknowledgement, but it meant something. The others, Bill, Tommy, the guys I'd worked beside for decades, they suddenly found their work real fascinating. They all knew. 70 people at that party Saturday night, and every single one of them had seen Margaret turn me down and walk into Derek Pullman's arms. My locker was at the far end of the building. I opened it, started pulling things out. The photos came down first. Me and Margaret at Amy's high school graduation, a picture of the old Kellerman crew from 1985, a postcard Amy had sent from Denver when she first moved out there. I left the picture of me and Margaret, just left it there, taped to the inside of the locker door, let someone else deal with it. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. I turned. Derek Pullman stood there. Carhartt jacket. Work boots that were too clean. That cocky smile that probably worked on women who didn't know better. Ed, hey, about Saturday? Don't, I said. He held up his hands. Just wanted to say, I said don't. Something in my voice must have gotten through because he backed up a step. For just a second I saw it, the uncertainty under all that confidence. He was 34 years old, probably thought he had it all figured out. He had no idea what he'd stepped into. All right, he said. Walked away. I finished packing my tools, closed the locker for the last time. Walked out of Kellerman Machine and Tool and didn't look back. That night, Margaret made pork chops, my favorite. Fried the way my mother used to make them, with applesauce on the side. She'd even set the table nice. Placemats, the good napkins. Sit down, she said. We need to talk. Here it comes, I thought. Here's where she tells me. I sat. She brought the plates over, sat across from me, folded her hands on the table like she was about to pray. Ed, I know things have been difficult lately. I waited. I've been going through something, she said. Menopause is harder than I expected. I feel invisible most days. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself anymore. Her voice cracked. Actual tears started forming. Saturday night, I didn't mean to embarrass you. I panicked. Dancing with you in front of all those people, I just felt so old. She reached across the table, took my hand. Her fingers were warm. I want to fix this, she said. We're too old to throw away 43 years over my stupid midlife crisis or whatever this is. You've been so patient with me, so understanding, and I've been awful to you. The tears were real. I could see that, or maybe she'd just gotten good at faking them. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Ed. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Okay, I said. She smiled, squeezed my hand. Okay? We can try. After dinner, we watched TV. She sat on her end of the couch. I sat on mine. But it felt different, warmer, like maybe we'd turned a corner. When she went to bed, her room, still separate, she stopped at my door, leaned in, kissed me, on the lips. Lingering? First time in 4 months? Good night, Ed. Good night, Maggie. I lay in bed that night, thinking maybe it would be okay. Maybe the party had been her wake-up call. Maybe we'd get through this. I was still thinking that when I heard her phone buzz in the bathroom the next morning. She was in the shower. The phone sat on the counter, charging. I walked past, saw the screen light up. Text message. D. Pullman. I picked it up. Is he buying it? Just hold steady 2 more weeks. Papers are almost ready. My hands started shaking. That little tremor I got when I was nervous. Except this wasn't nervous. This was something else entirely. I set the phone back, exactly where she'd left it, walked to the kitchen, poured my coffee, sat down at the table, and waited for my heart to stop trying to break through my ribs. When she came out, hair wet, smiling, cheerful, I smiled back. Morning, she said. Morning. She made eggs. I ate them. We talked about the weather. And the whole time, I was thinking about 2 weeks. Whatever she was planning, I had 2 weeks to figure it out. I didn't confront her. Wasn't any point. She'd deny it, or cry, or make me feel like I was the crazy one. 43 years married, I knew how this worked. Instead, I started paying attention. Tuesday morning, after she left for her errands, I went into the study. We had a joint checking account. Had since 1982. Never been a secret between us. I logged into the bank website. Password was still our anniversary date, which would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic, and pulled up the statements. Started with the last 60 days. Went line by line. $450 withdrawal, ATM, December 3rd. $500 withdrawal, ATM, December 10th. $400 withdrawal, December 18th. I kept scrolling, kept adding. My machinist brain did what it always did. Ran the numbers, found the pattern. 18 withdrawals over 8 weeks, all ATM, all between $400 and $500. Total, $8,700. I sat back in the chair, looked at the number on the screen, did the math in my head. At my final hourly rate, $20 an hour after 42 years, that was 435 hours of work, 2 months of my life. Gone in 20 transactions. I printed the statements, highlighted each withdrawal with a yellow marker, filed them in a folder I kept in my workshop, out in the detached garage where she never went. Then I went back inside and made myself a sandwich. She came home at 3, put groceries away, asked how my day was. Fine, I said. Yours? Good. Ran into Darlene at the store. She mentioned the VFW is doing a fish fry Friday. Thought maybe we could go. Maybe, she smiled. Touched my shoulder as she walked past. I watched her go. Tried to see the woman I'd married. Couldn't find her anywhere. Thursday night, she left for book club at 6:45. She'd mentioned book club 3 times that week. Casual-like. My book club meets Thursday. Need to finish this chapter before book club. Ladies are reading some mystery novel for book club? Funny thing was, I'd never heard of this book club before. And when I'd Googled book clubs Thursdays with our town name, nothing came up. I gave her a 10-minute head start. Then I got in my truck and followed. She didn't go to the library. Didn't go to any of the churches. Drove straight across town to Riverside Apartments, one of those newer complexes they'd built 5 years ago when they thought young people might actually stay in this town. I watched her park, spot 217. She grabbed her coat from the back seat, that good wool one I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago, and walked into the building, 3rd floor, corner unit. The lights came on at 7:03. I sat across the street in my truck with the engine off, January cold seeping in through the doors, my breath fogging up the windshield. I had to keep wiping it clear with my sleeve. Through the window, up there, I could see shadows. 2 people. Movement. She handed something to someone. Couldn't tell what. They stood close. Too close. At 7:30, the living room lights went off. The bedroom lights came on. I didn't need to see more. I started the truck and drove home. Got there 20 minutes before she did. Made it look like I'd been watching TV the whole time. She came in at 10:15, humming. Took a shower. Washing off Derek Pullman, probably. came to my door in her robe. You still awake? Yeah. She smiled, leaned against the doorframe. We're making progress, right? You and me? I looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 43 years. This stranger. Yeah, I said. Progress. And she blew me a kiss. Went to her room. I lay there in the dark and thought about spot 217, about bedroom lights at 7:30, about what progress meant to her versus what it meant to me. Friday morning, Margaret went to the grocery store, said she'd be gone an hour. I went into her bedroom, felt wrong, going through her things. 43 years. We'd never been the kind of couple who snooped, never needed to. Or maybe I'd just been too trusting. Either way, I was done trusting. Her nightstand had 2 drawers. Top one was normal, reading glasses, hand cream, a notepad. Bottom drawer had a folder, manila, the kind you'd get at Office Depot. Label said retirement paperwork. And I opened it, beneficiary forms, for my pension. Dated 8 weeks ago, right when she'd asked me to sign some updated paperwork while I was laid up with my back acting up. I'd barely looked at it. Trusted her when she said it was just routine. I looked at the forms now. Really looked. My signature was there. Right where it was supposed to be. Except it wasn't my signature. I got my reading glasses. Studied it close. The loops were wrong. The pressure was wrong. I'd been signing my name for 68 years. I knew what it looked like. This was traced. Someone had put my real signature under a blank page and traced over it. And these forms, they didn't just update beneficiaries. They changed everything. Pension survivor benefits would go entirely to Margaret, regardless of divorce. The house deed was changed to joint tenancy with right of survivorship. If I died, she'd get it all. If we divorced, she'd still get the pension. I photographed every page with my phone, put the folder back exactly how I'd found it. Then I went to her car. The Camry was unlocked. She never locked it in the driveway. I opened the glove box. Insurance papers, registration, a pack of tissues, and a birthday card. Hallmark, flowers on the front, generic happy birthday message inside. But there was handwriting too, Margaret's handwriting. To my future. From your Maggie. Soon we'll have everything we deserve. Dated December 10th, 2 weeks before Christmas. I'd been stringing lights on our house that day. Spent 3 hours on a ladder in the cold, making sure everything looked nice for the holidays. Thinking maybe the lights would cheer her up. Thinking maybe Christmas would bring us back together. While I was up on that ladder, she was writing love notes to Derek Pullman about their future. I took a picture of the card, put it back, closed the glove box, went to my workshop, and sat down on my stool. The concrete floor was cold. The smell of sawdust and machine oil, my smell, the smell of 42 years of work, surrounded me. On the workbench sat my retirement plaque, still in its box. I'd brought it home from Kellerman, but couldn't bring myself to hang it. Couldn't throw it away either. Just sat there in its box like me. Stuck. I looked at my phone, at the photos, the trace signature, the beneficiary forms, the birthday card. The bank statements were in my filing cabinet, Earl's spiral notebook. Wait, I didn't have that yet. But I had enough. Enough to know this wasn't an affair. This was a plan, systematic, calculated. She wasn't leaving me for Derek Pullman. She was extracting me. That night, I couldn't sleep, lay in bed and ran through my options. Confront her. She'd deny it. Lawyer up. Play the victim. Tell everyone I was losing my mind, getting paranoid in my old age. Who would they believe? The sweet wife worried about her husband's declining mental state? Or the jealous old man making accusations? Confront Derek. And do what? Fight him? I was 68 years old. He was 34 and spent half his life in a gym. Best case, I'd embarrass myself. Worst case, I'd end up in the hospital, and she'd use it as proof I was unstable. Tell Amy, our daughter was 2 states away, talked to her mother 3 times a week, me once on Sundays. Margaret had probably been feeding her stories for months. Your father's been so distant lately. I'm worried about him. I think retirement is harder on him than he wants to admit. Do nothing. Sign whatever papers they put in front of me. Let her take the house, the pension, everything. Disappear into whatever was left of my life. Every direction I looked, I froze to death. So I just stopped looking. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I went through the motions, made coffee, ate breakfast, sat in my workshop staring at tools I couldn't bring myself to use, watched game shows on TV without seeing them, nodded when Margaret talked, smiled when she expected it. She didn't notice anything was wrong. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Monday evening, I was in the workshop, sitting on my stool, looking at that retirement plaque in its box. Couldn't hang it up, couldn't throw it away, just like everything else in my life. There was a knock on the door. I looked up. Earl Hutchins stood there, 72 years old, my neighbor for 28 years. Widower. His wife Helen had died 5 years back. Cancer. She'd gone faithful, holding his hand at the end. He had a 6-pack of Hamm's beer in one hand and his spiral notebook in the other. I got eyes, Ed, he said. And I got granddaughters. Can't let this slide. I didn't ask what he meant. Didn't need to, I just opened the beers. Earl sat down on the old wooden crate I kept for visitors, popped open a beer, slid one across the workbench to me. Helen used to say I was nosy, he said. I prefer observant. I took a drink. Hams, cheap beer. The kind working men drank because it got the job done without pretense. Earl opened his spiral notebook, the same kind he'd carried for 30 years as a factory foreman. Habits die hard. December 3rd, he read, 11:47 p.m. Black F-150, vanity plates, Derek 1, parks 3 houses down, leaves at 1:32 a.m. He flipped a page. December 10th, Thursday, Margaret's Camry leaves your driveway 6:52 p.m., returns 10:38 p.m. Another page. January 15th, same pattern. He had 14 entries. Dates, times, vehicle descriptions, all written in his careful, methodical handwriting. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Would you have believed me? Earl looked up from the notebook. Or would you have thought your neighbor was a crazy old man spying on your wife? He had a point. I got a niece, Earl said. Patricia Morrison, family law, she's good. Doesn't suffer fools and doesn't lose often. He took a drink. She'll see you Wednesday if you want. I'm 68, Earl. What's the point? Point is dying with your boots on, not your knees. We sat there in silence. The space heater clicked on in the corner. Outside, I could hear the wind picking up, February coming in cold. Tell me about Helen, I said. Earl's face changed, softened in a way I'd never seen before. 41 years, he said. 5 years of cancer at the end. Lost her hair, lost 60 pounds, but she never lost herself. Never lied to me, never looked at another man. He stared at his beer can. She died holding my hand. Last thing she said was, "Thank you for staying." He looked at me. I won't watch another good man get stripped by someone who doesn't deserve him. Not on my watch. Something in my chest cracked. Not broke, cracked, like ice on a pond when the temperature finally starts to rise. I got proof too, I said. Pulled out my phone. Showed him the photos. Bank statements. Forged beneficiary forms. The birthday card. Earl whistled low. That's not an affair, Ed. That's fraud. I know. You ready to use it? I thought about that. About 43 years. About the woman I'd married versus the woman who'd traced my signature. About waking up every morning for the rest of my life in this house, in this town, having lost everything because I was too polite to fight back. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pat's office is above the pharmacy on Main Street. Earl finished his beer, grabbed another. Between now and then, you find anything else, you document it. Photos, dates, times. Don't confront. Don't tip your hand. Just gather. She's got my phone passcode, I said. I could check her messages. Do it. Screenshot everything. Earl stood up, stretched his back. She gave you the tools, Ed. Might as well use them. We drank in silence for a while, 2 old men in a cold workshop, the space heater fighting against February, the retirement plaque still in its box on the workbench. What do you want out of this? Earl asked. When it's done, what do you want? I thought about that. Really thought. I want my house, my pension, my name clear. I paused. And I want her gone. Earl nodded. That's dignity, Ed. Remember that when things get hard, you're not being cruel, you're being fair. He left around 9, took his notebook with him, left the rest of the beers. I sat there in the workshop for another hour, then I went inside. Margaret was already asleep. I stood outside her door, listening to her breathe. This woman I'd married. This stranger. I went to bed. Slept through the night for the first time in weeks. Wednesday morning, I drove to Pat Morrison's office. Earl was already there, sitting in the waiting room with a styrofoam cup of coffee. She's good, he said, but she's direct. Don't take it personal. Pat's office was small, but organized. Law books on shelves, a desk with neat stacks of files. She was 56, salt and pepper hair cut short, wearing a pantsuit that meant business. Mr. Dalton. She shook my hand, firm grip. Sit. I sat. Earl sat beside me. I spread everything on her desk. Printed bank statements, photos of the beneficiary forms, screenshot of Derek's text, Earl's notebook, the birthday card photo. Pat put on reading glasses, studied each item, took her time. She picked up the signature comparison I'd made, my real signature next to the forged one. You did this analysis? 42 years as a machinist, I said. I know precision. Oh, for the first time, she smiled. Small, professional, but real. I can see that. And she examined the beneficiary forms. This notary signature, you recognize the name? I looked. No. I'll find out who it is. She made a note. If it's fake, that's another charge. If it's real, I want to know their connection to your wife or Derek Pullman. She leaned back in her chair, folded her hands. Mr. Dalton, your wife isn't just having an affair, she's committing fraud. Possibly conspiracy. That's criminal territory, which gives us significant leverage in civil court. I don't want her in jail, I said. I just want her gone. Pat nodded. Understood. And honestly, that plays better anyway. Shows mercy, shows you're not vindictive. And she pulled out a legal pad, started writing. Here's what we do. I investigate. I find out who this notary is. I document everything. Then we bring them both in, your wife and Derek Pullman, and we give them a choice. Sign a clean divorce settlement with no pension claim or face criminal fraud charges. That simple? If they're smart, yes. If they're stupid, it gets messy. She looked at me over her glasses. Either way, you get what's yours. Your house, your pension, your dignity. That word again, dignity. How long? I asked. Give me a week to investigate. Don't tip your hand at home. Act normal. If you find anything else, document it, send it to me. She handed me her card. And Mr. Dalton, you did the right thing coming here. I stood up, shook her hand. Thank you. Thank Earl. He's the one who called me. She smiled at her uncle. Persistent old man. No runs in the family? Earl said. We left the office. Stood in the parking lot, February sun trying to break through clouds. Feel better? Earl asked. Feel like I started a war. War started in December, Ed. You're just finally suiting up. I drove home. Margaret's car was in the driveway. She was making lunch. Sandwiches, humming in the kitchen. How was your morning? She asked. Fine. Ran some errands. Anything interesting? Not really. She smiled. Brought me a sandwich. Ham and cheese. Cut diagonal the way I liked. I ate it. Tasted nothing. But I smiled back. Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Pat Morrison. Mr. Dalton, I've got information. When I was in the workshop, Margaret was at her book club. I closed the door. Go ahead. The notary on those beneficiary forms is Thomas Pullman, licensed notary in this county. Also happens to be Derek Pullman's cousin. I sat down on my stool. Conspiracy. Exactly. Two-person minimum for fraud conspiracy. That's criminal exposure for both of them. Papers rustled on her end. I also had my investigator look into Derek Pullman's background. Ed, he's married. 8 years. Wife's name is Rachel. She's an RN, works night shift at County General. They have 2 kids, 6 and 4. The workshop went very quiet. Ed, I'm here. Margaret probably doesn't know. Derek's been running a romance scam. You were the target for money. She was the tool. I thought about that birthday card. To my future, Margaret thought Derek was going to leave his wife and kids for her. Thought they'd ride off into the sunset with my pension money. She was wrong. When he realizes he's facing criminal charges, Pat said, he'll fold. Men like that always do. And when Margaret finds out he's married, that he was never planning a future with her. She paused. Let's just say it changes the dynamic. When do we bring them in? I'll call them Monday. Set a meeting for Tuesday, 2 p.m. Another pause. Ed, one more thing. Has your daughter been in touch lately? Amy calls every Sunday. Why? My investigator pulled Margaret's phone records. She's been calling Amy 3 to 4 times a week for the last month. Used to be monthly. My stomach dropped. She's building a narrative. That would be my guess. Planting seeds. Your father's been distant. I'm worried about his memory. He's struggling with retirement. So, when I accuse her of fraud, Amy thinks I'm losing my mind. Potentially. Might be time to bring your daughter into the loop. Show her the evidence. She lives in Denver. Convenient time for a visit, maybe? I thought about Amy. 42 years old, hospital administrator. Smart. Precise. She got her brain from me. Everyone said so. Let me think about it. Don't think too long. If Margaret's setting up a competency play, you want to get ahead of it. We hung up. I sat there in the workshop, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Derek Pullman had a wife and 2 kids. Margaret didn't know. This just kept getting worse. Sunday, 2 p.m. Like clockwork, Amy called. Hey, Dad, how's retirement treating you? I wanted to tell her everything. Wanted to say, your mother's sleeping with a married con man and forging my signature and stealing from our joint account and setting you up to think I'm crazy. Instead, I said, fine, honey, adjusting. Mom says you've been a little down lately. Is that true? There it was, the seed Margaret had planted. She said that? Yeah, last week when we talked. She's worried about you. Says you've been forgetting things, mixing up dates. I gripped the phone harder. I haven't forgotten anything, Amy. Dad, it's okay if you're struggling. Retirement is a big change. A lot of men have trouble. I'm not struggling, and I'm not forgetting things. Silence on her end. Then, okay, if you say so. But I could hear it in her voice. The doubt. Margaret had done her work well. How's work? I asked. Changed the subject. Let her talk about hospital politics and budget meetings. Listened to her voice and thought about how I was going to tell her that her mother was a liar and a thief. Not today, not over the phone, but soon. Love you, Dad. Love you too, honey. After we hung up, I found Margaret in the living room, reading a book, or pretending to. You been talking to Amy about me? She looked up, innocent eyes. Just mentioned you're adjusting to retirement. Why? What exactly did you say? That you've been quiet, a little distant. I said I was worried. She closed the book. Ed, you have been distant. I'm allowed to talk to my daughter about my concerns. Gaslighting. That's what Pat had called it. Making me doubt my own reality. What concerns? You've been spending a lot of time in that workshop. Not sleeping well. I hear you up at night. She stood, came over to me, put her hand on my arm. Maybe you should see Dr. Palmer, just to check up, make sure everything's okay. I'm fine, Margaret. I know you think you are, but sometimes we don't see things clearly ourselves. That's why we need people who love us to help. She kissed my cheek, went back to her book. I walked out, went to the workshop, called Pat. She's setting me up, I said. Competency play, just like you said. Amy coming to visit? Not yet. Make it happen, Ed, before Tuesday. Show her the evidence. Let her see who her mother really is. Monday evening, I was on the porch. Earl came over with a pitcher of lemonade. You ready for tomorrow? He asked. Ready as I'll get. We sat in the old metal chairs. Watched the sun go down behind the houses across the street. February was giving way to early March. Still cold, but you could feel spring trying to break through. What's the worst that happens? Earl asked. Amy sides with her mother. I lose everything. Die alone in some apartment somewhere. And the best? I get my house, my pension, clean break. She's gone. Earl nodded. Seems worth the risk. A car drove by Mrs. Peterson from down the street, heading home from her shift at the hospital. She waved. We waved back. Normal life. Normal town. Normal evening. Except nothing was normal anymore. Helen used to say something, Earl said. The truth don't need makeup. It just needs air. Your Helen was a wise woman. She was. He poured more lemonade. And she'd have liked you. Would have told Margaret she was a damn fool for what she's doing. And we sat there until the streetlights came on. Until Margaret's car pulled into my driveway. Until Earl said goodnight and walked back to his house next door. I went inside. Margaret was making dinner. Meatloaf. Good day? She asked. Quiet. I was thinking maybe this weekend we could go out. Dinner at that Italian place you like. Maybe. She smiled. Touched my shoulder as she walked past. I watched her go. Thought about tomorrow. 2 p.m. Pat Morrison's office. Tuesday was coming, whether I was ready or not. I went to bed early, lay there in the dark. Heard Margaret on the phone in her room, low voice, laughing. Derek, probably. Making plans for their future. A future that was about to blow up in both their faces. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow, I get my life back. Except Tuesday didn't come first. Friday did. Amy called Thursday night. Not Sunday. Thursday. Dad, I'm flying in tomorrow, just for the weekend. My stomach dropped. You don't need to do that, honey. I want to. I've been worried. And Mom mentioned you've been having some confusion about paperwork, signing things you don't remember. I just want to check in, make sure you're okay. Margaret's work. All of it. Amy, I haven't been confused about anything. Then it'll be a nice visit. I'll get in around 2. I'm staying at the Holiday Inn on Route 9. You can stay here. Your room's, I think the hotel's better. Just for now. See you tomorrow, okay? She hung up before I could argue. I found Margaret in the kitchen. She was wiping down counters that were already clean. Amy's coming tomorrow. She turned, surprise on her face. Good actress. Oh, she didn't mention it when we talked earlier. Didn't she? No. But that's wonderful. We'll make dinner. I'll get some... She's staying at a hotel. Margaret's smile faltered, just for a second. Oh, well, if that's what she wants. I walked out, called Pat. Amy's coming Friday. Margaret orchestrated it. Good. Pat didn't sound worried. Let her come. We'll show her the evidence Friday evening. You, me, and Earl. Let her see the documents herself. Then she comes with us Tuesday. What if she doesn't believe me? Ed, your daughter's a hospital administrator. She deals with documentation every day. She'll recognize fraud when she sees it. Trust her brain. And I wanted to. God, I wanted to. Friday afternoon, Amy's rental car pulled into the driveway. I was on the porch, coffee in my hand, heart hammering. She got out, smiled, but it was uncertain, like she was approaching a skittish animal. Hey, Dad. Hey, sweetheart. We hugged. She held on a little longer than usual, like she was checking to see if I was real, if I was still me. Margaret came out. Amy, honey. Mother-daughter hug. Long, tight. When Amy pulled back, she looked at me over Margaret's shoulder. That look said everything. Concern, pity, determination to help her poor declining father. You hungry? Margaret asked. I made your favorite, pot roast. Actually, Mom, I was hoping to talk to Dad first, alone. Margaret's smile tightened. Of course. I'll go start dinner. She went inside. Amy turned to me. Can we sit? We sat in the porch chairs, the same ones Earl and I had sat in Monday night. The metal was cold, even through my jeans. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Always have been. Have you been forgetting things? Mixing up dates? Signing paperwork you don't remember? No. Mom says, your mother's lying. Amy blinked. Dad, I need to show you something. I pulled out my phone. But not here. Can you meet me somewhere? Where? Pat Morrison's office. 6 p.m. Above the pharmacy on Main. Who's Pat Morrison? A lawyer. Earl Hutchins' niece. Amy sat back. Dad, what's going on? 6 p.m. I'll explain everything, but I need you to see it for yourself. Documents. Evidence. Then you can decide if I'm confused or if your mother's the one lying. She studied my face. Looking for signs of dementia, probably. Or paranoia, or whatever Margaret had primed her to see. Okay, she said finally. 6 p.m. Pat's office was quiet when we arrived. Just me, Amy, Earl, and Pat. Pat had everything laid out on the conference table. Bank statements, photos of the beneficiary forms, the birthday card, Earl's notebook, screenshots of text messages. Ms. Peterson, Pat said. I'm Patricia Morrison. Your father retained me last week regarding some irregularities. I'd like you to look at these documents. Amy sat down. Started with the bank statements. 18 withdrawals, Pat said. 8 weeks, total of $8,700. All from the joint account your parents have held since 1982. Amy's face was unreadable. She moved to the next document, the beneficiary forms. Look at the witness signature, I said quietly. Amy picked up the page, stared at it. Her face went pale. That's my signature? Yes. But I never signed any retirement forms for you. Think back, Pat said, about 6 months ago. Did your mother ask you to sign anything, even just a blank page? Amy's eyes went distant, remembering. Last visit home, July. She said you needed a witness signature for some notary thing. Said you'd fill in the details later. I signed a blank page. She looked up at me, horror in her eyes. Oh my God. She used it, Pat said. Photocopied your signature onto the fraudulent beneficiary forms that would redirect your father's entire pension to her, even in the event of divorce. Amy set down the paper. Her hands were shaking. Show her the text message, Earl said quietly. I pulled it up on my phone. D. Pullman, is he buying it? Just hold steady 2 more weeks. Papers are almost ready. Amy read it. Read it again. Derek Pullman, I said. Production supervisor at Kellerman. 34 years old. Your mother's been having an affair with him since last summer. The dance, Amy whispered. At your retirement party, someone posted a video. I saw it. Thought it was weird. But Mom said you'd been refusing to dance with her for months. I never refused anything. She's been dodging me for 4 months. Then she refused me in public and danced with him instead. Amy put her face in her hands. Pat slid the final document across. Photo of the birthday card. To my future, from your Maggie. Soon we'll have everything we deserve. Amy read it aloud. Looked at the date. December 10th, 2 weeks before Christmas. While I was hanging lights, I said. Amy stood up, walked to the window, stood there with her back to us. Nobody spoke. Finally, what else, Dad? What else is there? I told her, all of it. The stakeout, the forged signature on the forms, Derek's cousin, the notary, the book club that didn't exist, and then Pat told her the rest. Derek Pullman is married, 8 years, 2 kids. Your mother doesn't know. Amy turned around, tears on her face now. How long have you known? Month, little more. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? The silence was answer enough. Amy wiped her eyes, came back to the table, looked at all the evidence again. Her hospital administrator, brain, kicking in, checking, verifying, looking for holes. She wouldn't find any. It was all real. What happens now? She asked. Tuesday, 2 p.m., Pat said. I've called both your mother and Derek Pullman. Asked them to come here for a meeting. We present the evidence, give them a choice, Clean divorce with no pension claim or criminal fraud charges. I want to be here, Amy said. That's your choice. Amy looked at me. I'm so sorry, Dad. I should have believed you. You believe me now. That's enough. She came around the table, hugged me, really hugged me. I believe you now, she whispered. Saturday morning, Amy came to the house. Margaret was making breakfast, French toast. Amy, I didn't expect you so early. Did you sleep well? We need to talk, Mom. Margaret's smile flickered. Of course. Let me just tell me about Derek Pullman. The spatula clattered on the stove. Who? Don't lie. I've seen the evidence, all of it. Margaret looked at me. I was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Ed, what did you tell her? He showed me documents, Amy said, including my signature, the one you stole from me. Margaret's face cycled through emotions, shock, anger, calculation, then tears. Amy, you don't understand. Your father's been so distant, so cold. I was lonely. I made a mistake, but when did it start? When did it start? Last summer. You asked me to sign that blank page in July, so it started before that. Margaret said nothing. The birthday card is dated December 10th, Amy continued. To Derek, your Maggie. That's what you call yourself with him? Amy, please. I'm done, Mom. Amy's voice went flat, cold. Dad's lawyer asked me to be at a meeting Tuesday, 2 p.m. I'll be there, and I suggest you bring a good attorney. Because what you did, using my signature without my consent, that's fraud. And I'm not going to help you get away with it. Margaret grabbed Amy's arm. You can't do this to me. I'm your mother. Amy pulled away. You stopped being my mother when you weaponized me against my father. She walked out. Margaret turned to me, mascara running, real tears this time. Ed, please, we can fix this. My phone rang. Pat Morrison. I answered it. Kept my eyes on Margaret. Mr. Dalton, I've called both parties. Tuesday, 2 p.m. It's happening. Understood. I hung up. Margaret was staring at me. Tuesday, I said. 2 p.m. You might want to get a lawyer. I walked out. Left her standing there in the kitchen with the French toast burning on the stove. Sunday was quiet. Amy stayed at the hotel, called me once to say she was okay. Just needed to process. Margaret stayed in her room most of the day. I heard her on the phone. Crying. Probably calling Derek. Let her cry. I sat in the workshop, looked at my tools. 42 years of precision work. Measuring things down to the thousandth of an inch. You do that long enough, you start thinking life works the same way. That if you're careful enough, precise enough, patient enough, everything will line up right. But life doesn't work that way. Some things can't be measured. Some people can't be trusted. And some marriages die so slowly, you don't notice until you're sitting alone in a cold workshop on a Sunday afternoon, waiting for Tuesday to come. Earl knocked around 3. How you holding up? Fine? And he sat down. We didn't talk for a while, just sat there. 2 old men waiting for the world to turn. Helen used to say, Earl started, then stopped. Hell, I've told you everything Helen used to say. And I smiled. First time in days. What was she going to say this time? That the hardest part isn't the fight, it's the waiting before it. She was right. Usually was. Earl stood. You want company tomorrow, before the meeting? No, but thank you. He nodded, left. I sat there until dark. Then I went inside. Margaret was at the kitchen table, red eyes, coffee cup in front of her, long since cold. Ed. I stopped. Didn't sit. I need to know something, she said. Are you really going to do this? Destroy our marriage, humiliate me in front of lawyers and our daughter? I'm not destroying anything, Margaret. You already did that. It was a mistake. A stupid, lonely mistake. But we can fix this. We've been married 43 years. That has to count for something. It did count for something. Until you forged my signature and stole from our account and used our daughter as a weapon. Her face hardened. You can't prove I forged anything. Actually, I can. Pat's got a handwriting expert. And your boyfriend's cousin, the notary, is already nervous. Pat talked to him Friday. He'll flip the second criminal charges get mentioned. Margaret's coffee cup rattled when she set it down. Derek's not my boyfriend. What is he then? Someone who made me feel alive again. Someone who saw me. When's the last time you really looked at me, Ed? I looked at you every day for 43 years. But you stopped looking back about a year ago. She stood up. You have no idea what it's like. Getting old. Invisible. Watching everything fade. You think I don't know about getting old? I'm 68, Margaret. I watch myself fade every morning in the mirror. But I didn't handle it by stealing from you and lying to our daughter. I wasn't stealing. $8,700. I have the statements. She went quiet. Tomorrow, I said, 2 p.m. You should probably call a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. Oh, maybe Derek can help you out. After all, you two are partners. I went to bed, lay there in the dark, listened to her move around the house, heard her crying through the wall. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 43 years, wanted to go to her, wanted to fix it, wanted to believe her tears meant something. But the rest of me remembered that text message. Is he buying it? The tears were part of the performance. I closed my eyes and waited for Tuesday. Monday morning, I did something I hadn't done in 16 weeks. I got dressed nice. Clean shirt, dress pants. The tie Amy had gotten me for Christmas 2 years ago. Margaret was already up, watching me from the kitchen doorway. You're getting dressed up? Yes. For the lawyer. Yes. Ed, please, don't do this. I turned to her. You had 4 months to talk to me. 4 months to tell me you were unhappy. 4 months to do anything honest. Instead, you lied, stole, manipulated our daughter, made me look like a fool in front of 70 people at my own retirement party. I grabbed my jacket. I'm done asking you to be the person I married. I'm just going to deal with the person you became. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. You just didn't mean to get caught. I walked out, drove to Earl's. He was on his porch, coffee in hand. You ready? He asked. No, but I'm going anyway. That's all any of us can do. We sat there for a while, watched the neighborhood wake up, Mrs. Peterson leaving for her hospital shift, the garbage truck making its Monday rounds, normal life continuing around us. What do you think happens? I asked. After? After what? After Tuesday, after she signs, after she's gone. What do I do with the rest of my life? Earl thought about that. You do what all of us do. You get up, you make coffee, you find something worth building, and you keep going until you can't. That's it? That's everything. At 1:30, my phone buzzed. Pat Morrison. Everyone's confirmed for 2 p.m. Your wife? Derek Pullman. Amy's already here. Now, is Derek bringing a lawyer? Nope. Neither is your wife. Either they're confident or they're stupid. Or they don't know how much trouble they're in. That too. A pause. Ed, you ready for this? I looked at Earl. He nodded. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. Pat's conference room felt smaller with 5 people in it. Me and Amy arrived first. 1:50 p.m. Earl came with us. Pat was already there, files arranged on the table with the precision of a general planning a campaign. Amy sat beside me, reached over, squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, she whispered, I'm here. I know. At 2:03, Margaret arrived. No lawyer. She saw Amy and stopped. Honey, you don't need to be here for this. Yes, I do. Margaret's eyes went to Pat. I don't understand what this is about. Ed's lawyer called and said we needed to meet, but please sit, Mrs. Dalton. Margaret sat on the opposite side of the table, like we were enemies now instead of people who'd shared a bed for 43 years. At 2:11, the door opened. Derek Pullman walked in, saw me, saw Margaret, saw Pat's expression. What's this about? He tried for confidence. Landed somewhere around nervous. Sit down, Mr. Pullman. He sat, not next to Margaret, at the far end of the table. Pat opened her folder. Let's begin. She slid a document across to Margaret. Mrs. Dalton, is this your signature? Margaret looked. The beneficiary form. Yes. And this one? Pat pointed to my forged signature. That's Ed's. No, Pat said. It's not. It's a forgery, and that's fraud. Margaret's face went white. Pat turned to Derek. Mr. Pullman, do you know Thomas Pullman, licensed notary? That's my cousin, who notarized these fraudulent forms. I don't know anything about conspiracy to commit fraud, Pat said. Criminal charge, you and Mrs. Dalton and your cousin. Derek's cockiness evaporated. Wait, I didn't sign anything. I didn't. The $8,700 withdrawn from the Daltons' joint account, Pat continued. Where did that money go? Margaret's turned to go pale. Those were gifts, for us. For our future. What money? Derek said. I don't know about any money. Margaret looked at him. The money I've been saving, for when we... What are you talking about? The first crack appeared. I could see it in Margaret's face. Confusion, then doubt. Pat leaned forward. Mr. Pullman, are you married? The room went silent. Derek's face cycled through emotions. Finally, yes. Margaret's coffee cup, she'd brought one from home, habit, slipped from her fingers, shattered on Pat's floor. What? I have a wife, Derek said. 2 kids, 6 and 4. But you said... I never said I'd leave them. You assumed. Margaret stood up. You said we had a future. You said, I said a lot of things. Derek turned to Pat, desperate now. Look, I can't have fraud charges on my record. I've got a family, a job. I didn't know about those forms. I swear. She must have. Don't you dare, Margaret said. But Derek was already talking, throwing her under the bus to save himself. She pursued me, made it clear she was interested. It got out of hand. But I never signed anything. I didn't know about the money, or the forms, or any of it. Margaret was shaking. You're lying. Am I? Derek stood. I'm done here. If you want to file charges, call my lawyer, but I had nothing to do with fraud. He headed for the door. Sit down, Mr. Pullman, Pat said. Or I call the sheriff. You're not leaving until we settle this. Derek sat. Pat looked at both of them. Here's what's going to happen. You're both going to sign statements. Mrs. Dalton, you're going to agree to a clean divorce. No alimony. No pension claim. You get half the liquid assets, your car, your personal belongings. The house stays with Mr. Dalton. I can't. Or I file criminal fraud charges tomorrow morning. Both of you. And your cousin, Mr. Pullman. Derek cracked first. If I sign a statement, I'm clear. You admit to the affair. Deny knowledge of the fraud. Yes. He grabbed a pen, signed immediately, didn't even look at Margaret, stood up. I'm sorry, man, he said to me. Couldn't even meet my eyes. I'm sorry. Then he left. Just walked out. Margaret watched him go, watched her future walk out the door. He's not coming back, is he? Her voice was small, broken. No, I said. She looked at me. Ed, please, don't make me sign this. You forged my signature, stole my money, used our daughter, made me look like a fool. I leaned forward. Sign the papers, Margaret. She did, hands shaking, tears running down her face, but she signed. 43 years, ended with a pen on paper. Pat collected the documents. You have 30 days to vacate the residence, Mrs. Dalton. Margaret stood, grabbed her purse, looked at Amy. Honey, don't, Amy said. Margaret left. The four of us sat there in silence. Finally, Pat spoke. You did it, Ed. I didn't feel like I'd won anything, just felt tired. We went to the diner after, me, Amy, and Earl. Pat had other clients. Said she'd file the divorce papers in the morning. The diner was half empty. Tuesday afternoon, the waitress, Linda, worked there 20 years, brought coffee without asking. Heard about the meeting, she said quietly. Good for you, Ed. Small towns. Everybody knew everything. We sat in a booth by the window, didn't talk for 10 minutes, just drank coffee and watched traffic go by on Main Street. Finally, Amy spoke. Are you okay, Dad? I don't know yet. That's honest. Earl stirred his coffee. Winning doesn't always feel like winning, not right away. Does it ever? I asked. Give it time. Amy's phone buzzed. She looked at it. Mom's calling. You don't have to answer. I know. She declined the call. Set the phone face down on the table. I'm not ready. Maybe not for a long time. That's okay. Is it? She's still my mother. Being someone's mother doesn't give you the right to use them as a weapon, Earl said. Your dad didn't ask you to choose sides. She did that when she forged your signature. Amy nodded, wiped her eyes. I keep thinking about all the calls, all the times she said she was worried about you, all the seeds she planted. And I believed her. I flew here thinking I needed to stage an intervention. You came when it mattered, I said. That's what counts. We ordered food we didn't really want, ate, because that's what you do. Linda kept our coffee cups full and didn't ask questions. Around 4, Amy's phone rang again. Different number. She answered. Hello? Her face changed. No, she can't stay with me. I don't care where she goes, but it's not my problem. A pause. That's between you and her. I have to go. She hung up. Margaret's sister, she said, asking if Margaret can move in with me in Denver. What did you tell her? No. Earl raised his coffee cup. Good for you. She's going to tell everyone I abandoned my mother in her time of need. Let her, I said. People who matter will understand. People who don't, their opinion doesn't count anyway. We finished our coffee. Amy said she was driving back to Denver in the morning. Early flight to catch later in the week. You don't have to rush off, I said. I know, but I need some distance. From all of this, from her. She hugged me, held on tight. I'll call you. Not just Sundays. Real calls. Okay? Okay, Earl shook her hand. You did good, kid. Standing up like that. Your dad's proud. Even if he's too stubborn to say it. I'm not too stubborn, I said. I'm proud. Amy smiled. First real smile I'd seen from her since Friday. She left. Earl and I sat there a while longer. What now? I asked. Now you go home. Pack up her things if you want, or just let her do it. 30 days she's got. He stood, put money on the table for his coffee. And Ed, take tomorrow off. Don't think about any of it. Just breathe. Don't know if I remember how. You'll figure it out. I drove home as the sun was setting. The house looked the same as always, modest, paid off 20 years ago. 43 years of memories inside, some good, some bad, some that didn't know which category they belonged to anymore. Margaret's car was in the driveway. I sat in my truck for a minute, worked up the nerve to go inside. She was in the living room, packing boxes, already started. Didn't waste time, I said. She didn't look up. 30 days isn't very long. Where are you going? My sister's, in Pennsylvania. She said I could stay until I figure things out. Amy, no? Her aunt called her. Amy said no. Margaret taped a box shut. Hard, angry. My own daughter won't help me. You used her signature to commit fraud. What did you expect? She finally looked at me, eyes red, face puffy. I expected her to understand that people make mistakes, that mothers aren't perfect. Mistakes are forgetting to buy milk. What you did was calculated, months of planning. I was desperate. For what, money? A younger man? What was worth throwing away 43 years? She sat down on the couch, surrounded by half-packed boxes. I don't know anymore. I thought Derek loved me. Thought we'd have this whole new life together. Thought I'd finally matter to someone. You mattered to me. Did I? When's the last time you really looked at me? Ed? Saw me. Not just the woman who made your dinner and did your laundry, but me? I thought about that. Really thought. Last week, I said, when I found that birthday card, I saw exactly who you were. She flinched. But before that, I continued, I don't know. Maybe I stopped looking the same time you stopped looking at me. Maybe we both let this die and just didn't want to admit it. Then why are you so angry? Because you didn't just let it die, Margaret. You stole from it on the way out. You tried to take everything I'd worked for and built, and you used our daughter to do it. She didn't have an answer for that. I went to my workshop, sat there in the dark, didn't turn on the light, just sat. Around 9, I heard her car start, heard her leave. Didn't know where she went, didn't care. The house was quiet. I'd lived in this house for 38 years, raised a daughter here, built a life here. Now it was just me and the silence. I looked at my retirement plaque, still hanging on the workshop wall where I'd put it before the meeting. 42 years of work, all those hours, all that precision. For what? For this, a quiet workshop, an empty house. A marriage dissolved like it had never existed. I sat there until midnight, then I went inside, went to bed. The house felt bigger without her in it, emptier, but it was mine, all mine. I closed my eyes and waited for morning. Wednesday, I woke up at 6 out of habit, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table. No bacon cooking, no eggs. No Margaret humming while she pretended everything was fine. Just me and my coffee and the newspaper. Earl knocked at 7. Thought you might need company. Come on in. He brought donuts, the cheap kind from the gas station. We ate them at the kitchen table and didn't talk much. Margaret came back last night, I said. Around 11, must have just been getting the rest of her things. You talked to her? No, stayed in the workshop until I heard her leave again. Earl nodded. Probably for the best. She's got 3 more weeks, then she's gone for good. Oh, how's that feel? Don't know yet. We finished the donuts. Earl helped me wash the dishes. Strange, having another man in my kitchen doing dishes. But it felt right somehow. You need anything? Earl asked. Groceries? Company? Someone to help change the locks? I smiled at that last one. I can change my own locks. I know you can, but the offer stands. After he left, I walked through the house. Really looked at it for the first time in months. The photos on the wall, me and Margaret at Amy's graduation, our wedding photo. Vacations we'd taken when Amy was little, I took them down, one by one, put them in a box in the garage, not throwing them away. They were Amy's history too. But I didn't need to look at them every day. In the bedroom, Margaret's bedroom, not mine, her clothes were still in the closet. Her perfume on the dresser. That same perfume I'd bought her every Christmas for 40 years. I left it all. Let her deal with it. I had 3 weeks to decide what to do with this room. Maybe make it an office. Maybe a proper guest room for when Amy visited. Maybe just close the door and forget it existed. In my workshop, I finally started building something. The birdhouse I'd promised Earl's granddaughter. The one I'd started months ago and never finished. My hands knew what to do. Measure, cut, sand, assemble. Precision work. The kind that made sense. By noon, the birdhouse was done. Simple, clean, well made. I painted it yellow, let it dry in the February sun coming through the workshop window. At 3, my phone rang. Pat Morrison. Divorce papers are filed. Should be final in 90 days. And Ed, Derek Pullman's cousin, the notary, he surrendered his license this morning. Took a deal to avoid criminal charges. Your wife's lucky we're not pursuing fraud charges. I just want it done. It will be. 90 days. I hung up, looked at the birdhouse. 90 days until the divorce was final. 3 weeks until Margaret was gone from the house. And the rest of my life to figure out what came next. I picked up the birdhouse, walked next door. Earl was in his garage, working on his lawnmower. Got something for Jessie, I said. He looked at the birdhouse, smiled. She's gonna love it. Good. We stood there in his driveway. 2 old men, neighbors, friends. Friends. You're going to be okay, Ed. I know. And for the first time in months, I believed it. 3 months later, the tomatoes were starting to come in. I stood in the garden where Margaret's roses used to be and looked at the green fruit hanging on the vines. Not ripe yet, but getting there. I'd ripped out the roses the second week of March, right after Margaret moved out for good, dug up every bush, roots and all, tore out the decorative stones she'd arranged, turned the whole bed over, then I'd planted vegetables. Tomatoes, green beans, cucumbers, things you could eat, things that served a purpose beyond looking pretty. The work had felt good, soil under my fingernails, sweat on my back despite the March cold. Building something instead of just watching things fall apart. Now it was late May, early morning, coffee steaming in my hand, the garden doing what gardens do, growing. Inside the house, things were different too. I'd moved into the master bedroom, my room now, repainted it. Got rid of Margaret's furniture, bought a new bed that didn't sag in the middle. Her room, the guest room, I'd left mostly empty. Put a desk in there, some bookshelves, made it a place where Amy could stay when she visited, which she'd done twice already. Once in April, once 2 weeks ago. We didn't talk about Margaret much. Amy had spoken to her mother exactly once since February. 5-minute phone call, mostly silence. Margaret was in Pennsylvania, living with her sister, working at a Target, Amy had heard, making $11 an hour at 66 years old. I didn't feel good about that, but I didn't feel bad either, just felt like the consequence of her choices. The divorce had finalized in May, 90 days, just like Pat said. I'd signed the papers in her office. Alone. Margaret had signed hers in Pennsylvania with some lawyer her sister found. 43 years. Ended with signatures in different states. The house was mine. The pension was mine. Half the savings went to her, about $9,000 after her $8,000 theft. She'd agreed to that in the settlement. Paid it back before the divorce finalized. I put that money in a separate account, didn't touch it, wasn't sure what to do with it yet. Maybe give it to Amy, maybe donate it, maybe just let it sit there until I figured out what justice actually looked like. Friday evening, I drove to the VFW, fish fry night. First time I'd been back since the retirement party in January. Earl had been bugging me for weeks. You can't hide forever, Ed. People forget. Move on. You should too. So I went. Walked in at 6. The place smelled the same. Fried fish, beer, floor wax. Some conversations paused when I entered, but not all of them. Jerry Wilcox stood up from his table, waved me over. Ed, good to see you. Jerry, I sat down. Jerry signaled to Darlene at the bar. She brought a beer without asking. On me, Jerry said. Heard you handled your business the right way. Other men at the table nodded. Bill, Tommy, guys I'd worked with for decades. Took guts, Bill said. Standing up like that, a lot of men would have just taken it. Almost did, I said, but you didn't. Jerry raised his beer. That's what matters. We drank, talked about normal things, fishing, the weather, who was retiring next from Kellerman, shop gossip. Nobody mentioned Margaret, nobody mentioned Derek. Derek wasn't even in town anymore. Transferred to a different Kellerman facility. Ohio, someone said. Or maybe Indiana. Didn't matter. He was gone. Around 7:30, Earl showed up, sat down with his own beer. You came, he said. You wouldn't shut up about it. He smiled. That's what neighbors do. We stayed until 9. Then Earl and I walked out together, stood in the parking lot, same lot where I'd sat in my truck last January watching Margaret dance with Derek. Felt like a different life. How you doing? Earl asked. Really? Getting there, I said. Some days are better than others. That's all any of us get. I drove home. The house was dark. I'd left the porch light on, old habit. Pulled into the driveway, sat there for a minute. My house, my driveway, my life. Not perfect, not what I'd planned, but mine. I went inside, made a sandwich, watched the news, went to bed at 10, and somewhere around midnight, lying in the dark in my new bed, I realized something. I was okay. Not happy, not yet, maybe not for a while, but okay. And that was enough. Saturday morning, Amy's car pulled into the driveway. Unexpected. I was on the porch, coffee in hand, newspaper on my lap. She got out, smiled. Surprise. Took a long weekend. Thought you weren't coming until next month. Changed my mind. That okay? More than okay. She came up on the porch, hugged me. You staying here this time? I asked. Or the hotel? Here, if that's all right. Your room's ready. We went inside. I made her coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. Talked about her work, her husband, normal things. The garden looks good, she said. Starting to produce. Should have tomatoes in a few weeks. Mom's roses are gone. Yeah. Good, she said. They never looked right anyway. Too fussy. Around 9, Earl knocked. Needed to borrow a Phillips head screwdriver. Come on in, coffee's on. He came in, saw Amy. Didn't know you were visiting. Surprise visit. Best kind? The three of us sat at the kitchen table, drank coffee. Earl told a story about his granddaughter Jessie and the birdhouse, how she'd hung it in her backyard and already had birds nesting in it. Amy laughed, real laughter. I looked around the table, my daughter, my neighbor, my friend, my life, different than it was. Smaller in some ways, but real. No performances, no lies, no trace signatures or stolen money, just coffee and conversation and people who showed up when it mattered. Later, after Earl left, Amy helped me in the garden. We weeded, watered, talked about nothing important. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Checked it later. Margaret's voice. Ed, it's me. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you probably won't call back, but I needed to say it. I'm sorry. I deleted the message. Amy was watching. Was that her? Yeah. You going to call back? No. Good. And some things you measure, some things you build, and some things, the things that matter, you just hold on to when the world tries to take them. I held on. I'm still here. 43 years gone, but I'm standing. The house is mine. The pension's mine. My dignity's mine. Lost a wife, gained my daughter back. Not an even trade, not even close. But it's what I got. People ask me sometimes, at the VFW, at the hardware store, at church, when I finally started going back, if I regret marrying her. I tell them the truth. I regret who she became, not who she was. That's the thing about getting old. You learn the difference. You learn that people change, and sometimes they change into strangers. And you can't measure that, can't predict it, can't fix it with patience or precision or anything else. All you can do is decide what you're willing to lose and what you'll fight to keep. I fought, not with fists or shouting, just with paperwork and patience and one good neighbor who paid attention when it mattered. Not glamorous, but it worked. Earl still comes over most mornings, brings his coffee. We sit on the porch and watch the neighborhood wake up. Don't talk much, don't need to. Amy calls twice a week now, not just Sundays, real calls, long ones. And in my workshop, there's always something to build. A jewelry box for Amy, a shelf for Earl's garage. Projects that matter because someone will use them. The retirement plaque is still on the wall. Catching morning sun, 42 years of work, still means something, just means it different now. I wake up, I make coffee, I tend my garden, I build things with my hands, and I keep going. Some things you just know when they fit right. This fits right.